Welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where each week here at MMA Junkie, we take a spin through the biggest stories in MMA. And on today's episode, Alexander the Great notches the sixth title defense at UFC 325. We have a Shavkat update for you. It's not fake news, but it's also not good news. 3 events is coming up Saturday: PFL, UFC, and BKFC. Are you leaving the couch? Hello, everyone. Gorgeous George here on the con. And look at the distinguished panel we have for you today. Goes from MMA Junkie Radio here in Las Vegas. Danny Segura down in the 305. He's in Miami. Mike Bond, the MMA media titan, checks in from Toronto. Please hit that like button. We'll worry about subscribing later, but it's the best bet out there, man, if you're an MMA fan. All right, let's get going, guys. Back-to-back numbered events are in the books. UFC 325 took place this past Saturday down under in Sydney, Australia. Are we having fun yet in the Paramount Plus era? Mike Bond, before we get to the results of the fights, let me get your take on the scheduling here. It seemed like last week, right here on SBC, we're kind of putting 324 to bed, and next thing you know, the countdown's already been out, embedded start dropping. What did you think of all that, back-to-back numbered events? Give me your take on that.
Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, obviously from us on the media side, it's like you put it right there. You're kind of dealing with the hangover of 324 and then 325s right here. You're having to do all your prep work. Obviously numbered events require a bit of a heavier workload, but the fact we didn't have, anyone on site and most of the media stuff was like happened in the middle of the night. Press conference was 2:30 a.m. my time on Wednesday or Thursday or whatever it was. So it did feel like the second half of this was a little bit more low key. It kind of felt like a fight night with just a title fight on the top of it. And, wasn't a ton of fight week heat or drama or things like that. So we were able to get through it, but I understand why they did this, right? Like they're trying to get the Paramount era off to a strong start. You're trying to drive subscription numbers, get people to sign up, and give them the bang for your buck. If you paid the $8.99 to get in the door on Paramount Plus, you're getting 2 numbered events within your first month subscription there. So you got to be pretty happy with that. And yeah, I think that's the main reason why they did it. I think is also Alexander Volkanovski kind of alluded to at his post-fight press conference. I think for this event to happen in Sydney the way it did, given their previous agreements and everything with that region, I think it had to be a numbered show. There was some talk of maybe this being a fight night at one point, but they had to transfer it to a numbered event, I think, to serve their obligations. So a lot of things kind of went into this working out the way it did, but it was clearly a tactical thing. And as you see now, it cost us no numbered events at all in February. And of course, we'll open up with 326 the first weekend of March. So I think it made sense, obviously, from a viewing perspective. I saw the first one cage side in the arena. I didn't get to experience all the broadcast elements of people complaining about the amount of ads, but I did watch this one from home. And although it wasn't on Paramount Plus up here in Canada, I ordered it through UFC Fight Pass. So when you guys were being showed ads and things like that, I was getting some of the walkouts, some of the other corner work, some of just the raw feed where they're walking around the cage and there's no commentary or commercials or anything. So I'd be curious to know what you guys felt watching from home, both of them on Paramount Plus. It does seem like the feedback in terms of the broadcast and the ad integration was a lot smoother than the debut week, though.
That's right. In Canada, it's still pay to play. I didn't think
80 bones for that one.
I'm glad I asked you. I didn't think of that. Paramount Plus probably using the momentum of 2 events. Hey, get in there, get these subscriptions going. Goes, take it from here. You got to see, I guess, a cleaned up version, right? We've seen both via the television, but did it seem cleaned up to you? Less, I don't think I had one buffering issue.
Yeah. So look, the first week that we went through this, my whole issue was I just want to watch. And when I watch, I want to watch in English. We had to watch it in Portuguese just to get it to work. That got fixed. So I'm happy about that. Now we move on to just some of the complaints of the pacing before and the ads and all that. And I think they did a good job of adjusting and bringing everything, having a kind of close to what will probably be the product that we're going to see going forward. And I can live with that. Sometimes the screen will shrink and you'll see an ad, and I'm okay with that. You still get to hear some of the corners, see the walkouts. I thought they did a really good adjustment for this being the second show. And, I have to imagine going forward, they're probably going to be still making a few minor tweaks here and there. But if this is what we have to deal with moving forward, I could deal with it. It's a happy medium, and we don't have to pay the $80 no more, which is great for us. Sorry, Mike.
Você não fala português, goes?
Pouquinho.
I do have one thing before Danny goes, just out of curiosity. I wonder, like the ads were, it didn't seem like it was that bad just based on all the feedback. I wonder if that just has to do with like the show, like did they not sell as many ads for 325 as opposed to 324? So like the next big card we get, where people are wanting to pay more for, sponsorship on those, is that going to lead to a different setup? Like, I'm just wondering if the state and the strength of this card had anything to do with it, or if this is how it's going to be. Hopefully the latter.
All right, Danny, you'll get a 2-4. Give me your thoughts on the back-to-back events, as a reporter, as a fan, and then let's get going with talking about the main event, Alexander Volkanovski notching his 6th title defense, besting Diego Lopes for the 2nd time.
I enjoyed the back-to-back events after 6 weeks of no UFC events or no major MMA events. I think it was sort of a nice reboot to get the fight weeks rolling and just, the calendar rolling. So I didn't mind it. And again, it did feel like a fight night one because of the distance. Also, there weren't many like super meaningful fights. You could argue that this was kind of like a fight night level, although matched up properly and we had some good fights, but it was more of a fight night, like a solid fight night than a pay-per-view in terms of the weight of the card. Obviously, the title fight really made the pay-per-view feel, but if you look at everything else, it kind of just felt like, solid fight night vibe. So, yeah, I liked it. I didn't mind it. In terms of like the ads and stuff, I'm probably the wrong person to ask just because, I'm working on fight night. And because of play-by-play, I'm in between fights. I'm just typing, I'm updating the site, I'm doing a bunch of things. So, walkouts and stuff is usually something I see out of the corner of my eye. Now I see some other ththings, but yeah, for me, it's not that big of a deal. But I understand as a fan, if you're having friends over and stuff, and you want to see the walkouts, you want to get in the mood, you want to get hyped up, you don't want to see an ad. So I get that, but also it is $8.99. So I as a fan, because obviously we used to expense these for work, but as a fan, I think I would rather take the ads along with the $8.99 than the $90 a month, in my opinion.
I think that's what everyone's saying at this point. Joseph Boza points out in the chat room that I think even say Zach Candido and the production team got their footing and they listened to the criticisms about the commercials. It was 11:15 Eastern, p.m. Eastern. I think it was 10. No, it was 9 p.m. 9:15 p.m. Eastern when Volk made the walk. I noticed that as well too. It had dragged on the first time, but it could have been because it was the initial splash. Danny, the fight itself, Volk kind of dominated Lopes again. Even though Lopes shored up a few deficiencies, the fight didn't, hit the ground and he didn't get dominated on the ground, but he just didn't have anything for him on the feet either.
He didn't. It was basically a copy and paste of the first fight. Lopes did look a little bit more polished, a little bit more patient. So that kind of slowed the rhythm of the fight. But even though those are things that usually you would attribute as a positive thing when analyzing or reviewing somebody's performance, I would say he had a better chance in the first fight than he did in the second one, just because it was a little bit more chaotic. And you can't really outpoint Volkanovski. You can't really out-technique Volkanovski, right? The question marks that were going into this fight around Volkanovski were the age, the physicality. But we know as far as like him, his IQ, his fight management, his skills, it's top notch. So I do think you got to brawl him out. You got to take him out of that technical fight. You got to make it dirty. And that's something that Diego didn't do. And I think that, it was a even more dominant performance from Volkanovski. And yeah, honestly, a little bit disappointed. Diego, I don't want to say he was gifted this opportunity because he went out there and beat John Silva. And that is certainly big. You saw how good John Silva looked a few weeks back. But certainly there were other contenders that were more deserving, at least sporting wise. And he got this opportunity, and you would think that, under these circumstances, you would go out there and make the most of it. And I feel like on that end, again, the same criticism that I had for the first fight, Lopes is a badass dude, but when he's fighting Volkanovski, he kind of tames down a little bit. And I don't feel like that's the sort of right strategy for Volkanovski. Also, his jiu-jitsu is the best. He's probably got the best jiu-jitsu now with Brian Ortega out of the division. He's probably got the best jiu-jitsu at 145 pounds. And, we saw that a good amount in his early UFC days, but not so much right now. And I think that should be a point of focus moving forward.
Yeah, he went to Oklahoma, right? And worked on stopping the fight from hitting the ground, but not initiating the fight hitting the ground, where he could show off that jiu-jitsu goes. It feels like it's another notch on the bedpost or whatever, on the skin on the wall for Alexander Volkanovski. But it doesn't feel like it almost, because there's two worthy candidates that are undefeated that should have at least faced them by now. But your thoughts? How do we come out of this fight for Volk at least?
Well, for Volk, you're right. Those two names that are lingering around, I think that's what's going to kind of help his legacy a little bit more. It's been a lot of rematches here, with him having a bunch of them, between Max Holloway and Islam and now Lopez. When you look at somebody's whole body of work, that tends to hurt a little bit. I think adding these different styles that both guys bring and different names, that's definitely going to help them. But I think one question in 2026 that we've kind of seen, it's almost the reverse of 2025, but like, I think the UFC too needs to kind of make an adjustment, because you look at who lost at the first numbered event, right? Paddy Pimblett. Now you see Diego Lopes. These are guys that they're trying to push, that it hasn't really gone their way. The old guard is not ready to go just yet, right? And so I think when actually me and Mike were talking about this on the preview show with Alexander Volkanovski, he kind of had like one foot out the door sometimes when he speaks. You can't really get a range of what he thinks the rest of his career is going to look like. Man, I don't know if he can stick around and add these two and then possibly more. Like, this guy's going to have like an untouchable record at this weight class. It's going to be something that we've never seen before. And it's no slight against guys like Paddy Pimblett or Diego Lopes. I just feel like maybe they're being rushed a little too quickly. And this is a lesson that the UFC maybe needs to learn now before they do this to other superstars that could possibly be in the same situation very soon.
Mm-hmm. Mike, what were your thoughts on Volk's performance? And, I guess, should the UFC bear some criticism? I mean, they made this bed.
Yes, they should. What was the talking point from the time this was announced? Like, I had some people on the podcast. I'm like, UFC, I want to call them spokespeople, but voices, Dean Thomas, Laura Sanko, all their justification for this is, it's the Paramount era. They're trying to put to the best fight to open it, the one that's going to give the most exciting. They don't want to have their second numbered event on the Paramount era, having Movsar Evloev lay on Volkanovski for 5 rounds, win a decision. That's not how you're going to get fans into the sport. We're doing this rematch to remind everyone why MMA is so great. I don't think this lived up to that at all. It was a fine fight, but once you got 2 rounds in and it was pretty obvious that Volkanovski wasn't going to be able to hurt Diego like that badly with some of the big shots he was landing, you were like, okay, this is just going to end up the same way the first fight did. It was kind of uninspiring in that regard, and I didn't really feel like I got too much out of it, and Diego didn't live up to that side as the challenger to make it this crazy fight, something that people talk about at the water cooler, so to speak, like they were with Paddy Pimblett and Justin Gaethje. That doesn't mean they need to throw technique out the window and all that stuff, but I don't think it achieved that goal. I do think Movsar Evloev, Lerone Murphy may have brought a more intriguing fight to Volkanovski on that night. Maybe it wouldn't have been as much stand-up or whatever the case may be, but I do think I would have been more compelled. By the 3rd, 4th round. It felt inevitable, and I wasn't, all that interested anymore. So that was kind of my thought on that side of it, and definitely some of that falls on Diego. Like Danny said, like, very fortunate opportunity that they presented to him here, and he did not take advantage of it. And now he's further away from the title picture than he's been, and he's trapped and cornered in this weight class until Volkanovski loses that belt or, retires or whatever the case may be. So a very bad night for Diego Lopes in that regard, but Volkanovski, incredible, one of his better performances. I thought he shut down the game completely. He made all the adjustments. I mean, it's kind of crazy after round 1, right? Joe Lopez's coach is being like, man, this guy doesn't know what to do. And you circle towards his power hand. And that was the whole thing. Diego needs to learn to cut off the cage. He needs to do this. He wasn't figuring that out in the first fight. He figured out a little bit, but Volk was like, I'll just circle the other way. And then Diego was clueless again. So I don't think it shined the best light, on the challenger, but for the champion, Volk's amazing. Ties him with Jose Aldo for most featherweight title fight victories at 8. You can add the WEC ones in there, say that Aldo's at 11, but still UFC stats only. That is, he did tie the record, and I think that's probably his biggest win, so to speak, coming out of this. But again, like when we look at the Volkanovski resume at the end, I'm not going to be like, man, he beat Diego Lopes twice, unless Diego goes on and does something crazy in these next few years. But the dude has 35 fights. He's 31 years old. I think this is kind of who Diego Lopes is at this point. So like Volk, I think he's doing right by everything. He's out there saying, I need to, not let anyone cut the line. I need to do right by this weight class. And hopefully that's what we get. We get a real championship fight next time around.
Big shout out in the chat to Robert Booma checking in on Facebook. Also Riley Easler checking in on Facebook. I don't come from the land down under, but I like that comment. Also, Duke Mad Duck says, hot take, Volkanovski is a decision merchant, but he doesn't get the Mozart hate. Interesting. All right, I'll have to go back and look and see, is he really a decisionator or not? Mike, who's the greatest featherweight ever? Was it already Volk going in? Because there's this whole thing where Aldo had that incredible run as a WEC and UFC champion, beloved. He's retired now and all that. But Volk did beat him. He hasn't surpassed his defenses yet, but all that put together, where do you put Volk? What's been your stance on that? Has it changed?
No, I think I had him at number 1 coming into this, and I think that remains the same. I mean, despite all I said there, Diego Lopes is a better win and a better fighter than maybe half the guys Aldo defended his title against. So it's the evolution of the sport. It's hard to compare, these guys. Aldo's the greatest featherweight of his era, and Volkanovski is the greatest of this one.
Everyone agree? Volk's the greatest? I can skip to the next question. Danny goes, yeah, okay, all right. What's next for Volk, Danny? Mozart or Lerone Murphy?
Well, we're gonna find that out.
Part 3.
Sorry?
Or Diego Part 3?
No, definitely not Diego Part 3. I will make a little parentheses though, because we always talk about this no man's land of being 0-2 against the champion, and certainly I'm not here to say that Diego Lopes is in a great position, but they are in different eras, right? Like, we are still talking about whether or not, how much longer is Volkanovski going to keep fighting. He's 37, turning 38 in September, I believe. Diego Lopes, he's fairly new to the UFC. That guy fights a lot as well. I can definitely see a time where Diego Lopes just racks up some wins. Time takes its course. Volkanovski retires, and Diego Lopes is right back in the mix. I don't think this is the end of his career. This is not like the situation when Holloway lost twice to Volkanovski, when they're literally around the same age, same sort of era. And you go, man, as long as this guy's around, he's not going to sniff a title shot, right? I don't think that's the case. So on that end, there is a positive side to this whole thing for Diego Lopes. But anyway, back to what you were asking. Well, we already got it, right? Like, we got to announce that, Lerone Murphy and Evloev are going to fight in the main event of UFC London. And I think that fight will determine the number 1 contender. I mean, if it doesn't, Jesus Christ, what are we doing here, right? I think, we can kind of tolerate some skipping of the line, some pushing away of the merit and stuff like that. But I think at this point, if either guy, whoever wins, they have to be next, right? They have to be next for Volkanovski. So in that fight, I think I got... Man, it's such a tough fight. I think I got Murphy, but I don't know. I will probably have like a different pick once fight night rolls around. That one's a tough one. I think I'm gonna go with Murphy, but it's a tough one.
Yeah, that literally broke, I guess,
right before the show.
Before the show. Okay, I hadn't seen that one. Well, I like the fight, and I was hoping to see one of the two take on Volk. I don't know. Volk always wants to fight so frequently, and he would have been one guy, a champ that I'd like to see defend 3 times in a year. But anyway, Lopez, did his stock drop goes, and what's next for him?
It dropped a little, but look, Volk is special. He does that to a lot of fighters, right? He's just in a different tier, but it doesn't mean Lopez can't contend. He's also a good fighter. What I think he just needs to do is figure out his identity. Like Danny said, use that jiu-jitsu a little bit more. I don't think he understands the fear that some of the fighters across from him probably have of being put in those situations, and he kind of gives them a pass. the game plans just haven't really clicked. And I don't know if it's because the game plan hasn't been established well or if he's not executing it, but he definitely needs to go back and figure all this out. I don't anticipate Volk being around that much longer. So yeah, I think he can definitely fight his way back. And if Volk is gone, I think he could fight for a title one day, but he definitely has to figure this out.
Charles Oliveira comes to mind. You know, early on, like the first 10 years of his career or 8 years of his career, he was just kind of hanging around, and then he became a star. Maybe Lopez can do something like that. It's happened before. All right, guys, let's move on to the co-main event. Benoit Saint-Denis defeated Dan Hooker. Your reaction there, Danny Segura, you start.
Yeah, I think we all kind of saw it coming, right? Dan Hooker was taking this fight on somewhat short notice. He took a bad beating against Sarukian at the end of last year, and he was doing a quick turnaround. Understandably, why he would do a quick turnaround, obviously fighting close to home. But man, this was a tough matchup for him. I did think this fight would go to distance. I did think that Dan Hooker was skilled enough and tough enough to hang the full 15 minutes. And I still kind of do feel like that would have been the case. He just got caught in a bad position when he got mounted, and he kind of had BSD. It was like sitting in between his arms and in between one of his arms. And yeah, like but all in all, like even before that sequence, I thought it was a competitive fight. I did have a lot of questions about BSD. I think more or less we know who Dan Hooker is at this point and what his sort of role is in the division, which is being a very good and exciting fighter, but that's about it at this point. Whereas BSD, you know, he had those couple of setbacks in 2024, TKO losses to Moicano, and I'm forgetting the other one, Poirier. So you do kind of wonder, hey, you know, is this guy the next big thing? Is he going to be part of the elite once the old guard walks away, right? And I think we still have yet to find the answer. Obviously, he hasn't broken into the top 5, but I'm pretty confident in saying that, yeah, he is one of the better guys, one of the world's best at 155 pounds. He looked great, 4-fight win streak, and he had the right call-outs. He wants a top 5 guy, and I think that's what he deserves next. So all in all, great night for BSD, and yeah, he's like your new BMF, right? I think whenever this old guard washes out, this is going to be one of the guys that we look at for exciting fights at the elite level.
All I keep thinking about is a numbered event in Paris, France, and someone like Benoit Saint-Denis fighting for a title there. I mean, those guys really blow the roof off. Mike, that's an incredible comeback this guy's on. 2024, he went 0-2, like Danny pointed out. 2025, 3-0. Now he's already 1-0. I mean, just staying in front of our screens, he's popping. He's picking up so much momentum here. And then the call-outs on point. Your thoughts on the fight and everything going on surrounding Benoit Saint-Denis?
Yeah, great performance by him. It's like you said, nice turnaround for him. I mean, it seems like he took the proper lessons away from the Poirier and Moicano fights. Him actually getting with a proper team and having a proper head coach seems to have benefited him a lot. And yeah, what more can you ask about this guy, man? He has 9 finishes since his UFC debut in 2020. That's the most of anyone in the entire company. He's finished every single one of his pro wins. So, like, you know, this guy's an action fighter, everything you want in that regard. And yeah, for him to go out there, like a bit of a shaky start against Dan Hooker, he just seemed like he wasn't really in the zone. But once he kind of found that range and I don't know, maybe tasted Dan's power a little bit, he was going in there reckless and landing his shots. And then when he got to the ground, it was game over. It's a bit of a late stoppage, I thought. You know, Dan Hooker was getting pounded on pretty hard there towards the end. And yeah, like he's a welcomed addition here. I think he put himself in great position for kind of the Arman Sarukian sweepstakes, right? Like I know he called for the winner of Topuria and Gaethje. That ain't going to happen. The winner of the BMF fight between Holloway and Oliveira maybe could be a little more in his realm. I know, you know, Danny put the BMF, initials next to his name in a sentence there. So I think that says a little bit of how we're starting to think of him. I don't know if he's quite there yet on the level of those guys who have historically fought for that BMF belt, but why not throw it out there? And I think the one, though, is the Sarukian one. He says, I'm going to take your spot. It makes too much sense to me. Like a lot of people are saying, I tweeted this out after the fight. They're like, BSD isn't him. Why would you say that? Well, I'm not saying he's going to win that fight, but if Sarukian is going to be boxed out of this title picture, he's going to have to fight someone. And there's no one in that top 8 right now that makes any degree of sense the same way he does. Maybe you could go to a Mateusz Gamrot rematch, but I don't think that's the fight the fans want to see or Sarukian's all that interested in, given Gamrot's coming off a loss. So I think that's exactly how he positioned himself. The lightweight division kind of needed a guy to jump in that next year, and he did it with this win.
It's disappointing too because Gamrot put an L on Sarukian a couple years ago, but he's kind of fallen off. But his BSD championship material, Mike, at the end of the day, can he win the title? You got Sarukian, you got the guys fighting for BMF, you got Gaethje, who's not going to hang around too long, and then of course the great Ilia Topuria.
It's going to be tough. I mean, some of those ones are going to be coin tosses. His best chance would be if Topuria moves to welterweight, and then, you know, he's looking at maybe a Justin Gaethje fight or something like that. That would be his best case scenario for a belt. But I think as long as Topuria or Sarukian, if they have hands on that title, BSD is not getting it.
All right, Goes, you're in Vegas. You get called to the matchmaker meeting tomorrow. What would you do with BSD?
I kind of agree with everything both guys just said. For me, it was kind of an odd performance because he does kind of have these hiccups at the beginning of fights. It takes him a while to figure things out. But when he does, he gets the job done, right? He gets the finishes. But I don't know that he's at the level that he needs to be to contend with the two top dogs up at the top. So if it were me, I think Mike's right. Like, what are you going to do with Arman Sarukian? There's not very many choices. So business-wise, it might make sense to match those up. But if I'm in BSD's corner, I think I would look to the winner of that BMF fight. I feel like one more fight would really do him a lot and get him prepared for that next tier. But business-wise, I think it's starting to point towards Sarukian.
Yeah, and I guess if you have to, you don't have to make it for the BMF, right? You can just have them fight one of the two. I don't like it when BMF is forced down our throats, but BSD, I don't think he has reached that status. We always look for something, right? Something special in a fighter to be involved in a BMF match. But
he gets a lot of finishes, man. He's a little bit of a gangster himself, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Should we be making a bigger deal out of the stoppage, Danny? Or I mean, do you have the longer leash in your end? Or
no, it was a bad stoppage. Who was the referee for that? Herb Dean?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, it was a bad stoppage. Hooker was not looking to escape, was not looking to improve the decision. He just shelled up, and that's not a guy that will ever tap out to strike. So if he has to sit there for 5 minutes, he will do that. Yeah, bad stoppage. But you know, it's kind of like fighter pay a little bit, where I'm almost kind of just sick of talking about it, because like what we talk about it, we complain about it, but what do these commissions do? Is there ever some sort of accountability, some sort of statement, you know, some sort of acknowledgement even? No. So yeah, bad stoppage, but yeah, Dan's a tough dude. He'll be fine.
Yeah, the only thing that makes me feel okay about that is I guarantee in the locker room, Dan Hooker said to Herb Dean, "Don't you effing stop this fight until I'm basically dead." So I don't think he's going to complain. He wants to know that he lost, you know, no questions asked. So he got that at least.
Yeah, he loves pain, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Sticking with the lightweights goes Mauricio Hoofy, defeated Rafael Fiziev. It's a challenge there with the R's. Your reaction to that fight, please?
Yeah, no, look, I think Hoofy figured it out, right? He's back on the right track, but I feel like he still has a little bit of work to do. And as far as Fiziev, I think he's got a lot to figure out. I think for starters,
he's on 4 or 5.
Maybe thinking about a different weight class. I mean, I just feel like he gets out muscled in a lot of these fights, but overall, good things for Hoofy. You saw the emotions coming out of him. I think he's on the right track.
Yeah, we found out that his brother took his own life days before the fight.
Was that before this fight, or was it before the Saint Denis fight? That's what
I thought he had to say.
I saw some other things. Like I saw, I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to put out false narratives here, but I thought I saw something this morning being like, oh, like what Roofy put out there in regards to his brother makes the BSD loss make a little more sense.
Yeah, he didn't. I don't think he specified it.
Yeah, I think for this one he had some issues though. Volkanovski said at his post-fight press conference that he had influenza or something like this week, and he's surprised he even showed up on fight day.
Yeah, I heard of a few fighters getting sick ahead of this fight, so I don't know if there was something going on in Australia.
What's next for Hoofy, Danny?
Oh man, I mean it's a good. Sorry?
He's got options. He's got the White House, but look at his finishing record. It's like 95% or 90%.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, I don't think he's gonna get the White House. I don't think he is, and I don't think he's gonna get Conor McGregor, right? Well, who was the other call out? He mentioned Chandler, he said?
Yeah.
Chandler, McGregor, and Pimblett, he called out, I think.
Okay. The Pimblett one, I can see it happening. We'll see what Pimblett's sort of health is, because he obviously took a pretty bad beating. I don't know if he's gonna want to return anytime
soon.
Said
he'll be back in the summer in his video blog. And interestingly enough, he didn't acknowledge the roofie call out, but he did say he'd be open to fighting BSD next.
Dude, I mean, if I were his team, I'd go for the Roofy fight, just because Roofy is exciting. He's kind of got a bit of a name. It's a good bounce back win. He's someone that, at least from what we saw in the BSD fight, still lacks a lot of grappling, and I don't know how much of that can you make up at this late stage in his career. So that seems like a good win, or potentially the BSD one. I'll put my money on BSD if that fight ever gets booked. So I don't know if you want to do one.
England versus France.
Sure, but
it might happen in the World Cup. It might happen in MMA.
Sure, but the name of the game is winning, and I think Paddy needs to win. A second loss would be quite big for his brand, for his career. So I don't know. I think for back to what we were discussing with Hoofy, there's some fun fights out there, but again, as he said, the lack of grappling that he showed in
BSD.
And in the fight against BSD, I do think that, he needs more fights before he can take on like a legit grappler like Mateusz Gamrot or someone like that. So I don't know. I think, for example, a fight with Ignacio Ajamontes would be fun. Jalen Turner would be fun. Just don't worry about getting these higher ranked guys. Just go out there and put on a show, keep putting on knockouts, keep developing that ground game. And once you're able to make a legit run for the belt, once you're a little bit more ready, more polished up, then go for the bigger names. But yeah, him and Manuel Torres, El Loco Torres, I think that would be spectacular fight. So those kind of fights, fights that open up a pay-per-view or a numbered event, I think that's what he should focus on.
Brazil versus Mexico might happen in the World Cup too.
Yeah.
Can you tell what I'm thinking about this summer? Talison Teixeira versus Tai Tuivasa. Teixeira gets his hand raised. Reaction there. Mike Bond. What did you think of the fight, and what's next for Talison Teixeira, who, to be fair, is barely at 10 fights, if I'm not mistaken? Are we rushing the whole expectation for him?
I don't know. Can we rush expectations for anyone in this heavyweight division? There's not really anywhere to go up or down. It's pretty rough. I mean, Tai Tuivasa is still going to be ranked on tomorrow, despite having 6 straight losses, the longest losing skid in heavyweight history. Jared Bandera gets his record of 5 saved there by Tai. I don't know. I mean, this was the eyesore of the main card here. Like, I think we kind of saw Talison Teixeira lose to Derek Lewis. This didn't necessarily inspire me that he has much of a better chance against that level of heavyweight. Learning experience, I guess, him going outside of the first round into a decision for the first time, but yeah, this fight made me feel more sad than inspired by anything.
Both guys were gassed, man. All someone had to do
heavyweight is so bad. It hasn't evolved. I was watching back because tomorrow is the 19-year anniversary of the first UFC event I went to, UFC 67, and co-main on that card was Mirko Krokop versus Eddie Sanchez. And I was watching that back and being like, bro, Eddie Sanchez is one of the worst heavyweights we've had, and like, he doesn't look that much worse than these guys that fighting today, like 20 years later. The heavyweight division is just in a bad place.
Yeah, Teixeira came close to ending it in the first round, and I think we'd all have a different thing to say here. But once they got in the third, it was sloppy. Would you cut Tai Tuivasa, or is he just fun enough to keep him around a la Sam Alvey?
The problem with the division is, like, who's ready to step up and take his place? There's not really any, and he kind of has this one life that he can hold on to, and I think it's maybe that Derek Lewis win, maybe because there's not much to do with Derek anymore. And it's 2 bangers. Maybe you can convince Derek, hey, look, I know this guy's on a big losing streak, but you can win this one back, get that one back, maybe something like that. But I don't think they would get rid of him just because. Who do you replace him with?
All right. Quinlan's Sal kid, Danny, back to lightweights. He defeated Jamie Malarkey. Looked Man, he's looking good, dude. What's his potential?
I think it's quite high. If obviously it's too early to tell. He's 26. He's just completing his first year in the UFC, but so far from what we've seen, he looks to be special. He looks to be special. And again, when you kind of glaze up a fighter, right? People are like, well, he's so young. He's only in the UFC for a year. This and that. And yes, I'm not saying he's going to be a future UFC champion, but compared to other guys that are 26 and that have been a year into the UFC career, yes, he's completely standing out and is overachieving. He's looking great. Again, he's got all the time in the world being so young. So I know he asked for somebody in the rankings, but I think he should probably stay away from the top 15, at least for his next fight, and just get somebody right outside of it. I know Bobby Green is scheduled to fight, but that kind of profile where it's like a big name, a veteran, a guy that's still good, but not necessarily at the elite level just yet. So I'd like to see that. But again, look, he just showed incredible grappling, great jiu-jitsu against Jimmy Mularkey, who's got good jiu-jitsu defense. And then before that, he picked up a knockout win. So the guy's pretty versatile, man. I like this kid.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited about him. He's just done great for himself the last couple fights. Before we move on to the next topic, and we have to do that quick, so start it off real fast. Let's go around with one more highlight from 325. We'll put this thing to bed.
My highlight was just Paramount Plus kind of showing us the direction that they're going to go to and being consistent with what they did. I was happy.
All right. How about you, Danny Segura?
I'll shout out Nakamura, Keiichiro Nakamura. He was losing, man. He was losing that fight. I was doing the play-by-play, and I'm like, this guy needs a finish. And we've seen it, and even the fight previous to that, like, guys are losing, and for whatever reason, and I get it, it's hard, but they don't change things up. They just kind of fade away, right? This guy clearly knew he needed a finish, and he changed his game plan. He started moving forward, and you could see there was a change in him. And man, you always got to respect that. So shouts out to him for the comeback win.
Mike Bond?
Yeah, I think those guys kind of nailed it. Cam Roston had a decent win over Cody Brundage. Looks like someone who has a little bit of potential in the middleweight division. Long, lengthy guy. Came ready with the semi-cringe, semi-funny post-fight call-out and all that stuff. So, yeah, these prelims, weren't loaded with too many big names, but some of the regional talent shine there in the road to UFC guys. So.
All right, and I'm just loving the $25,000 finish that someone who doesn't get a performance bonus gets. Of course, we always wish everything was more, but for now, it's something, because when a fighter goes out there and finishes and then has to sweat out these bonuses, I don't know. I've never liked that, and there's plenty of money to go around. Let's go to these news and fight bookings here in topic 2. Danny Segura, Jeff Neal versus Earls Medic. Nate Landwehr versus Cub Swanson, Chris Curtis versus Mitzelplick. There's some decent ones that came down these last few days. Any one of these you want to spotlight that you're interested in? I think one of them's headed to Miami, right? Swanson possibly his last.
Yeah, versus Landwehr. That looks like a fun fight, a little bit of a Legends fight.
That should be an opener, right, or something like that, or maybe the prelims.
I
prelims
think
main event.
Be like a solid prelim co-main event. I'm hoping, just because that means then the rest of the card is stacked, right? But yeah, this is a good fight. I like it for both guys. I think it makes sense. It's a bit of a you're not throwing Cub Swanson into the lion's den, which I don't think anybody wants to see. That Cub is beloved. And then Landwehr's getting a nice quality name here. He's able to add Cub Swanson to his resume. I think that'd be good for him. So I like it. I think it has potential for fight of the night.
Put him on the main event, man. We once saw Crone Gracie against Bryce Mitchell in the main event, I think, of a numbered event. We can definitely stomach this, because both guys, well, no, they don't talk. Cub's more reserved, but man, Landwehr makes it fun with his mouth, running his mouth. How about Patchy Mix? He moved on to Ryzen. We only know that because we saw a poster come out. So then we had to go backwards and find out he got cut.
Yeah, I was a little surprised. I mean, look, things didn't pan out the way he wanted, and probably the way the UFC did. And I'm sure they gave him decent money to come over and do that. In a way, I almost thought, I wonder if it's the UFC kind of flexing a little bit on PFL as well. Like, we're going to take your top guy. And just kind of, we don't need him anymore, something like that. But he just didn't find his way in the UFC. It's not the same fighter that we saw over at PFL.
Was it a fair cut in your opinion?
I think it could be fair.
Because the
We've
last
seen
one was
before.
a split decision loss, so he definitely looked a lot better than the Bautista win or loss. And to be fair, Bautista's turning it out to be quite the bantamweight.
Yeah, but I mean, I think coming in, right, just a couple of years ago, we were saying that this could be one of the best guys in that division, not just in PFL, but kind of on the planet. And that he hasn't panned out in that regard. So I get where the UFC is thinking here.
Mm-hmm. You agree, Mike? Patchy Mix, would you have wanted him to get one more?
I don't know. I guess I'm fine with it. I assume, this guy wasn't signed to a 10-10 contract and coming over, right? They probably sweetened the pot for him and he negotiated something a little bigger based on his ranking, globally and past accomplishments. So, the performance certainly didn't meet all the hype, right? We thought this guy might have been the best bantamweight in the world at one point, or like a top 3 at worst. And the performances don't match up. So is what it is. I don't know what his contract status is with Ryzen or if there's ever a path back for him to the UFC, but he didn't seem like he was comfortable there.
Mike, I'll stay with you. Shavkat Rakhmonov injured again. Late 2026 return possible. Kind of broke my heart, to be honest. What was your reaction?
Yeah, disappointed, obviously. I'd heard they were maybe working on a fight with Kamaru Usman before this news came around, so that's obviously not going to happen, and we just kind of got to take him off the chessboard right now at welterweight, which is, welterweight's so freaking good right now. My favorite division in the UFC with all this stuff happening, and Shavkat was a big part of that. Just all the hypotheticals and potential fights, him and Islam, perhaps one of the most intriguing fights, in my opinion, the UFC could make, and that's off the board for at least another year, I would suspect, because he's going to have to come back and win one. So you just hope this is a Dominic Cruz situation. A Habib at one point lost almost 2 years of his career due to injury. Like this happens sometimes to these really, really talented fighters. They just can't get everything to click. So I really, really hope that he can get through this, and in 4 or 5 years, we're just talking about this as a blimp on the radar, and ultimately we did get to see him fulfill his potential.
Had he fought Kamaru, does that mean Islam was going to fight either Morales or Gary? Do you know that? Or I'm putting pieces of the puzzle together as you're speaking.
Yeah, I think I don't want to say too much more because this is all still being worked on, but from what I heard, Kamaru was not getting the title shot.
Okay. And the timeline is, guys, he was going to fight Bilal, right? At December UFC 310, and Bilal got hurt. Gary steps in. Shavkat beats him, but that's where he hurt his knee. Wow.
Yeah.
So he just said, you know what? I'm only fighting for the title, hung back. Maybe it'd be a whole different thing. But of course, we also know that when you do that, sometimes the UFC doesn't like it. Danny, your thoughts, man? This one sucks, dude. This is one of the great finishers of our sport. I think he's won 19 fights, 18 by finish. The only one I can think of is the Gary fight.
Yeah, it sucks, man. Shavkat is somebody that's universally loved because he's everything you want in a fighter. Doesn't really talk too much trash, quiet guy, but once he goes in there, he's a badass. He always goes in there to finish, whether it's by knockout or by submission. So you always got to respect him. And yeah, man, this is not looking good. I don't want to throw certain things out there in the universe, but this type of injury, he got injured again. He's 32. He's going to be out for another year. I think at best case scenario, you are already, and again, this is not what I wish for Shavkat, but it's just out of me covering the sport for, a decade plus. No matter what, his potential already got cut, right? Like he is literally losing years of his prime. This is the time where he should be, winning titles, defending belts. And that, because of injury, simply is just not in the cards. Could he go on to recover and maybe at 33, 34, get a title and all that? Sure, maybe. But man, that's a big maybe. So hoping the best, hoping for a quick and good recovery, because he's an elite fighter and the welterweight division needs him. But man, the picture's not looking good. I'll say that.
As I mentioned earlier, we have 3 big events coming up this weekend. UFC Fight Night 266, BKFC, their Knuckle Mania, I think it's called. with Big Ben Rothwell and Andre Arlovski and PFL Dubai. PFL's kicking off their 2026 here. Where do you think PFL's standing is, now that they've gotten away from tournaments and they put a few cards together, and it looks like they're just going to focus on like an proper arena series with matchmaking towards, getting fighters to fight for a title?
Well, new leadership right at the top. I think it seems like they have a little bit of a new identity. We have to see what they're going to do. But I think what they need to focus on is just making every card matter. You got to lean on your stars that you already have, and you got to keep them. You can't keep having your stars go off somewhere else. Otherwise, you're going to look like a minor league. I think every card needs to matter. There needs to be names on there, interesting matchups. And I'm willing to give them another shot here. New leadership, I think I kind of like the direction that John Martin's going. And I know he's an actual fight fan, so he understands this stuff. Hopefully they can turn things around, because I think the world is better when you have a strong number 2.
Danny, are you feeling the buzz for 2026 for PFL? They got away from tournaments. There's been a little bit of a turnover as well with execs, matchmaking. And now they're, starting to pit fighters against each other.
I love Ghost's positivity. Maybe I'm just, a pessimist, but man, I'm not feeling the buzz, and I don't like the direction that PFL is going, right? Like, they've cut so many of their like big names, right? They acquired Bellator in order to merge rosters and make all these fights happen, and have all these bigger names that will compete with the UFC roster. And certainly on paper it looked that way, but then over time they've let go of Patricio, they let go of Patchy, they let go of Brian Bader, James Gallagher, like all these names that they paid so much to acquire, all of a sudden they're gone. And sure, they've re-signed Johnny Eblem, they've re-signed Dakota, and there's some positive things, but you needed the whole thing, because you needed those guys to fight other named guys. So to be honest, I'm not really feeling the buzz. I do wonder how much longer PFL is going to be in business, to be honest. I just don't see the excitement in terms of like the fan base around it. And again, this is not me wanting the demise of PFL. I'm just calling it how I see it. I hope PFL does great. In fact, one of my in like a video, video summary of like the year that I do over at my Spanish YouTube channel, I also do wishes for 2026. One of my wishes was for PFL and other promotions to do well, and not just UFC, because I do think it's important to have for a healthy industry. But man, I don't know. I just don't. There's nothing right now that excites me for PFL in terms of like potential fights or things that are doing. Hopefully they turn it around and maybe they can get some going. But I think out of all the time they've been in business, this is probably the least they've been talked about throughout the entire time they've been around.
Mike, they are kicking off with a Nurmi. That's right, Usman Nurmagomedov, the younger brother of Umar Nurmagomedov. 20-0, title defenses, was a champ at Bellator, a Grand Prix champion, has defended the PFL belt. He takes on the World Tournament belt from 2025, Alfie Davis. So, there's something there in a title fight on the ESPN family. Your thoughts on this main event?
Yeah, Usman Nurmagomedov is kind of the face of PFL right now. You could make an argument for Dakota Dacheva, I guess, but like he's right up there. He's very legit. He's top 6 lightweight in the world, probably, in my opinion. And this should be a bit of a showcase for him. No disrespect to Alfie Davis, but he's kind of on like a fairy tale run a little bit here through the tournament. Not many people are picking him to beat Gadzi Rabadonov. I think he was, like in the plus 1,000 range or something crazy like that for that fight. And will probably be a similar underdog here. So there's enough of a storyline. They're talking a little bit of trash. So it should be a fine fight, but I agree with basically everything Danny said there. This is very much a make or break year for PFL. It's the last year on their ESPN contract. I'm sure they want to persuade ESPN to stay with mixed martial arts in some sense and get a renewal for 2027 and beyond, or at least put their best foot forward to position themselves to get a healthy television or streaming contract from someone else going into the next stage here. So this is very, very important that not only they make these events good, but that the fights actually deliver, because Can anyone sit here like what was the PFL fight of the year, moment of the year in 2025? You'd probably have to sit and think about it for a little bit. So they need some stuff like that, some things that are picking up a little more traction, and we'll see what direction it goes. I do think if things go very badly for them here in North America, they do have a pivot in terms of becoming like a more European based brand, because it really seems when they do these events in different countries around Europe that they really pop. They feel much more significant than they do when they're in, say, Pittsburgh coming up. It's night and day. So I think we'll maybe see some more of that, and that'll be the direction. But the money, the streaming deals, all that stuff, those come from North America. So they need this to do well.
The 2025 Bonnie Fighter of the Year award. I just named your award show, Mike. It was Paul Hughes versus Usman Part 1, but it was last January, so I think everyone's forgotten about it since then. That was a pretty good one, but you're right. As soon as he said that, I was like, holy shit, you're right. They need these wow moments if they're going to survive. John Martin, the CEO, told Goz and I the other day that they did secure capital, more funding, right, for, I guess, this year or years coming forward. And I'm wondering if he did that knowing that he has something maybe in the works, either with ESPN or someone else. He comes from television. So that and this new way of getting away from tournaments and things like that, maybe I'm going to give him one more chance. But yeah, it is make or break for those guys. By the way, in the co-main event, there's a good fight. It's an early start time, by the way, they're in Dubai. And I'll get you the start time before the show's over. Ramazan Kuramagomedov against Shamil Musayev, two champs actually, because Kuramagomedov was a Bellator champ. Musayev was a 2024 PFL tournament champion or playoff champion. And Musayev is the truth. I think he's going to win. So there are some good fights. Jesus Pinedo as well, also making a comeback. He's the 2023 featherweight champion. And anyway, you have a highlight from this fight card Goz that you want to point to for the fans?
You got to go a little bit lower, but Trainer and Wilkinson, I think, will be a banger. I think that'll be
Rob
really
Wilkins is the former champion. I like that. Danny, you have one?
Yeah, I got to shout out Jesus Pinedo, man. That guy is super exciting to watch. El Mudo. Yeah, I'm always going to tune in whenever he's fighting. So, yeah, he's fighting Isbulaev. Got
razor blade elbows. How about you, Mike?
Nope, let's move on.
All right, UFC 2 Fight Night 266 preview. It's happening this weekend. Mario Batista versus Vinicius Oliveira. Is there a path back to for title contention for Bautista, Mike?
I guess so. I mean, we'll see how this division evolves. He's got the upside of having not fought Jan or Dvalishvili. So if Merab gets that belt back, and it's kind of just like a resumption of him going through, all these contenders being super active, sure, he's in that spot. But yeah, these guys are like, fighting to be one fight away from the title shot type of deal here. So Oliveira, I do like him as a prospect. That knockout he had in his debut with the flying knee still is like etched in my memory. That was a vicious one, but Bautista's just very hard to do that too. And yeah, this is a very fitting fight for the first Apex card of the year.
Before we keep going, listen up, you three. I don't care if you pull out receipts in a year, 2 or 3, Bautista will be a champ one day. You watch. You watch, man. That guy keeps getting better and better. But I want to know about Oliveira, Danny. Is he a serious contender or just a fun fighter?
I don't know, and that's what this fight's gonna determine, right? I feel like he's certainly good and fan favorite and very exciting fighter, but can he beat those top contenders? Well, if he gets past Mario Bautista, especially if he's able to finish him, something a few top dogs haven't been able to do, man. You definitely got to start talking about him and the title picture. And then, being in a title contender fight and being against another high level bantamweight. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of Vinicius Oliveira. I think he's awesome. And let's see what he does against Bautista. Bautista certainly has a style to be able to neutralize chaos and not make the fight boring, but certainly, just make chaotic fighters just, not chaotic. So, yeah, let's see how this one goes. But if Vinicius gets a W here, watch out. He's on his way to the top.
Who wins, Danny?
Such a tough fight to predict. I'm gonna go Bautista decision, but wouldn't surprise me if Vinicius does something crazy and gets a knockout or something.
Damn. All right. Goes.
Bautista decision, I think.
Mm-hmm. And Mike Bond.
Yeah, that's probably the safe bet. Is Bautista to take this on the scorecards, but Oliveira again, we'll see if he can level up here. This is a big opportunity for him. So I think him winning would be the more interesting result. That's for sure.
Yep.
Who? Bautista?
No,
Oliveira.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. In the co-main event, Amir Albazi faces Kyoji Horiguchi. What are your thoughts? Here goes on this one. The flyweight division's rather shallow. Kyoji Horiguchi is succeeded at the UFC, outside of the UFC, and now he's come back to the UFC and he won, in his comeback to the UFC. Speaks English well, and I think he's charismatic. People like him. What do you think here, man? What happens?
I think it's a fun fight. I like watching both these guys fight. At the top, I think it's a little clogged right now, so I think you have to make your voice heard. And I know the champ has mentioned he would want to fight Horiguchi at some point. So I think it's a good fight, but I think Horiguchi has the edge, and I think he gets the finish.
So you think this has title implications, at least for Horiguchi?
I think it makes their voices heard, but not immediate title implications.
And who do you think wins?
Horiguchi.
All right, Danny, what are your thoughts here?
I think Horiguchi wins, and I am more optimistic about his title chances. I don't think there's anything set. We don't know what's going on with Pantoja and how quick he's able to fight, but Joshua Van is itching after those 26 seconds. He's itching to fight again. So I think that fight is going to be fairly soon in terms of a flyweight title fight. And I think it's up for grabs. I think the contender right now maybe is Manel Cap, but you got to throw in there also, as I mentioned, the champ or the former champ. But man, if Horiguchi goes out there and gets a crazy knockout and continues his call out, his nice call outs and all that, I can see him getting a title shot. So let's see what happens. But certainly, I think there's title implications for Horiguchi here.
Danny saying Cop's next. Mike, do you agree, or is that Cap?
I think, as you noticed on the broadcast when they put up that UFC 326 graphic, there was a TBA versus TBA co-main event spot there. I do think there's some talk of having Joshua Van and Manel Kape fight on that March 7th card, so I could see that materializing. Yeah, but Horiguchi's in a great spot here. The flyweight division is awesome right now, and there's lots of ways. Like if Pantoja had won against Van, there was that great teammate versus teammate storyline. I think it would have been perfect. If somehow Tatsuro Taira gets himself into that title picture and gets that belt, to fight between him and Horiguchi in Japan would be absolutely massive. So there's big fights ahead for Horiguchi, and I feel like this is just the step number 2 in kind of reintroducing him to the UFC audience. Had a great win against Ulanbekov, and then we'll see what we can do here. Amir Albazi, he's left a lot to be desired, I think, in his UFC career. So this is his moment as well. He can kind of shake up this weight class, but this feels like, Horiguchi, give him another big moment, let him get a highlight, build up this highlight reel, and off to the races. He's going to be in the thick of it.
Kyle Barallo and RDR, are they still on co-main, or are they still on UFC 326? I'm seeing Joseph Boza talking about it in the chat.
Yeah, they bumped it down, I think, to the featured bout.
I really want to see that fight, by the way. That's why I'm asking. So that'd be cool if they added Van versus Kape.
Yeah, because the co-main was supposed to be Ortega and Moicano, and Ortega pulled out. So
yeah, that's not co-main material though. So I mean, it deserves to be on the card, obviously, but I never thought that was co-main material. Another title fight would be nice for the fight card here in Las Vegas in March. I'm just gonna skip Kuniev unless someone wants it. Kuniev versus Almeida. Someone got 30 seconds on that.
Just please give us anything.
Highlights.
Make it anything. Please don't lay on each other or throw no strikes on the ground for 3 rounds. Like heavyweight, bro. Do anything. Anything. The opportunity is all there. Just do something, and you'll get yourself in a great position.
It was
not holding my breath for that one.
It was painful the way Almeida can do that, especially because he does get that early takedown and it looks like he's gonna go to work, and then not much happening there. When are the cops coming? I'm restraining this guy. Anyway, another highlight before we get out of here goes UFC 320 Fight Night 266. What are you looking forward to?
I like watching the Hanyak fight. I like Dustin Jacoby.
Oh, Jacoby.
He's got this would make a nice little streak, and maybe he could build off of it, but I enjoy watching him fight.
Hey, with the Hanyak was in Australia, right?
It's supposed to be.
With Cody
Oh
Brundage?
yeah.
Because he was supposed to fight Crute, but I thought I saw him there with Brundage in one of the embeddeds. Ooh, that kind of
he was
travel,
supposed
man.
to fight in Jacoby was supposed to fight in Australia. His opponent pulled out, and they moved him a week later to this card.
Yeah, that travel, no bueno, man. For weight cuts, for just getting your body ready and acclimated. Really risky move there by Dustin Jacoby. I would have said, hey, do something with me in about a month. Another highlight, Danny.
I'm a big fan of Caitlin Souza. I think she's one of the more exciting fighters in the women's strawweight division. Heavy hands. She's fighting Bruno Arceo. I think that's gonna be a fun fight.
And you got her winning?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Mike Bond, another highlight.
Yeah, we'll go with. I noticed Danny said that. I think our first women's fights of the year on this card too.
Yeah.
We did get one at 324, but I'll go with the Basharab Bros. I mean, only a handful of brother pairings in the UFC, let alone seeing them compete on the same card. So we'll see what happens there. I think Farid has a lot of potential fighting John Matsumoto. That's a good fight. So we'll see if it's a good night for the brothers or one to forget.
Mike, I just got a text from Rose. How dare you forget my fight? I got a tube in my eye for the next 3 months.
Yeah, no, sorry, Rose. My bad.
Great job, guys. You guys gonna do the triple threat here? BKFC, PFL, and UFC. 2 of the 3, 1 of the 3. What?
Dude. Don't forget, there's a Super Bowl this weekend. Like, they're gonna have to peel us from the couch if we do all that.
Yeah. All right. Throw that other question out. Who do you got, Goes? The Pats or the Seahawks?
Give me the Seahawks. I think it's destiny. I think they're gonna pull it off. Sorry, Nolan King. Don't hate me.
Danny?
I don't know shit about football.
You don't
man,
know.
but
Mike
I'll go the Patriots just because, I feel like I hear them a lot and they seem to be like a good team. So, and I like Nolan. So let's go for the Patriots.
Mike Bond?
I'll go with Seattle just because that's so close to my birthplace of Vancouver, BC, just across the border. Although I do apologize, to these Patriots and Boston fans. They're so long suffering when it comes to sports that I don't know if they'll be able to handle a loss here,
Yeah. Guys, you did outstanding as always. And everyone that tuned in, we really appreciate you. We saw some of the comments come in. We got to a few. And of course, this show right away is available. If you caught part of it, you can start from the beginning or catch up on whatever you missed. Here on the YouTube channel, which we kindly ask you to consider subscribing. It's free, and then we do all the work. So we'll basically be on top of all these shows that we talked about, the ones in the past, the ones that are coming up. We would really, really greatly appreciate it. And on the way out, if you can give us a thumbs up, that's the like button, the thumbs up. That would be awesome as well. We'll see you in about a week here on the Spinning Back Clique show. For now, go out and be a champion.